Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the match preview, West Ham United versus Everton. I am joined by Matthew Barry, making his debut on Toffee TV. Welcome.
Thank you.
West Ham away at the weekend. A fixture that is all right for Everton. West Ham. I'm not going to say any more than that for fear of jinxing anything. Yeah. But obviously this one's got a little bit more spice with it being David Moyes again at the helm at West Ham. In December, there was big rumours that he could be in the Everton dugout. And obviously we've got Carlo Ancelotti. But a tough game, but a game that Everton can win.
Yeah, I think so. We always seem to have done well against West Ham in the past. The thing this time around with Moyes being the manager, that you think he's going to have him probably fired up that little bit more. He's probably going to be disappointed that he didn't get the Everton job. He probably thought he was there or thereabouts.
He did.
You know, and calling West Ham Everton in his press conference as well. I don't think it's endeared him to the fans that much. So, but it's a fixture we always tend to be all right in.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? You are worried about trying too much because you've got too much Everton history in us, haven't we, to go over the top. I mean, the last time he was West Ham manager, we beat them 4-0 at Goodison, but the only game he's actually won against Everton since leaving was the one at the London Stadium. They beat us 3-1 the last game of the season when we had someone in our dugout who shall remain nameless. They've had a little bit of an upturn since he went in to the job. They had a good win against Bournemouth, beat Bournemouth 4-0. And then they got through in the FA Cup, didn't they? But, you know, last week they lost 1-0 at Sheffield United. Almost at the point, obviously, a goal disallowed with VAR. So he's got them fired up, like you say. But they've had an injury against Fabianski, which is a big blow for them because he's a good goalie. But they have completed the signing of Darren Randolph for $4 million from Middlesbrough. It looks as though Philippe Anderson is going to be fit as well, which he limped off against Sheffield United, and the hope was that, from our perspective, that he might miss this one, but it looks like he's fit. So they've got players who can cause us problems. Haller as well, he's a good player, and Everton will have to be careful with West Ham's forward players, won't they?
Yeah, I mean, you look at last season when they beat us at Goodison. Felipe Anderson was superb. He had the freedom of the left-hand side, and he was excellent. Lanzini's usually turns up against us as well, but Fabianski's a massive miss for them. But Darren Randolph, I think Jonathan Woodgate said he's had the longest medical in history this week, so hopefully he's not 100% fit.
Yeah, well, he'll only I think he's his first training session's Thursday with them, so, you know, that's never good. You
look at sort of the forward line, and Haller's, I think he's a very good centre forward, and I think where he was up front for Eintracht, where he was part of a front three, I think he played better, especially with Jovic off of him. But I think Mikel Antonio's injured as well, he usually has a good game against us. So if he's up front on his own, you think that Mina or Keane, whoever, I think it's going to be Mina. Probably Carlo said that he's going to rotate. Yeah, you think he'd be able to look after him, but it's the players coming off of him. I think that we may have, certainly with our issues in midfield.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, midfield, they've played with Noble and Declan Rice, and they've had other people in there as well. And we're not the most mobile of midfields at the moment, because obviously we're missing Gomez, and the big miss was obviously Garner, who we haven't had all season, so no point worrying about that. But we just haven't got the most mobility in the centre of the park. Do you see him staying with the two that started against Brighton, and Gylfi Sigurdsson and Tom Davies, or do you think maybe Morgan Schneiderlin will come back into his thinking this weekend?
I don't think Schneiderlin will. I think that ship sailed now. I think after Anfield, absolutely. I don't think the supporters are aware that. Yeah. To a certain degree. I wouldn't be surprised if Delph came back in.
I was going to say Fabian Delph's the other one. He seems to be, fit.
I think the type of player the Noble is, I think you may need somebody who's a little bit more combative than Sigurdsson, and I think you need the legs of Tom Davies, absolutely 100%. So I wouldn't be against Sigurdsson and Davies playing midfield, but I think it'd be Delph and Davies.
Yeah, I mean, he could do that. He could rotate. Sigurdsson's played a lot of games lately as well, hasn't he? He's been in the team. pretty much since Marco Silva got sacked, actually. But I know he just got in because we had a couple of injuries. Silva had dropped him. He dropped them, actually, for this game, didn't he? For the reverse fixture at Goodison, he come on and scored his only goal of the season. Currently averaging a goal every 788 minutes, so it's not very good. He's got 1 goal, 1 assist this season, and that, for someone who we paid a lot of money for, to be a chief goal maker and goal taker, and certainly last season I think he finished with 13 Premier League goals and 6 assists, I think it was. This season he's been way off it. So if he is, he could be one who they might look at and think, well, we will go with Delph. We'll go with Delph and Davis, and then maybe bring Sigurdsson off the bench with half an hour left to try and, when the game's slowed down, he can have more of an influence. So that wouldn't surprise me if they did that.
I think you look at the impact that Delph had when he came on against Newcastle, where he slowed the game completely down. And we took control of it. Again, I think Newcastle's midfield is a little bit more combative, certainly, than what West Ham's were. So I think he'll temper that. I think the big win for us will be with Bernard being fit. And him and Luca Dean being back on the left-hand side, because Luca Dean looked himself again.
He did. And he'd had a difficult week as well last week, obviously. We know we had family bereavements and stuff, and he didn't train for 2 or 3 days last week. And I think that's why Carlo took him off for the last 10 minutes against Brighton. But you're right, he looked a lot like himself, bit more like himself with having Bernard in front of him. They were great last season, and down here they were brilliant. And Dean does need that link-up play. I think it just helps him out. And Bernard, we spoke about it, certainly on the podcast, and we spoke about it in the final word, that since Ancelotti's come in and Bernard's played, he's got him cutting inside, a bit like Insigne does for Napoli. But he's coming in off the wing and creating a problem centrally for teams. And because Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are quite mobile, that's given us options. And I expect Theo Walcott will play. Of just reading something there, but he scored and assisted more goals against West Ham than any other club in the Premier League. So sometimes those things work for players that you feel good. He hasn't scored or assisted any at the London Stadium yet, so he has to change that at the weekend. But I expect Walcott to play as well, just because I think away from home, even though he does run in straight lines, his pace is a threat, isn't it? And I suppose if you've got, because Bernard isn't the quickest in transition, he's okay with the ball. He's like when he's running with the ball, but he's not a long sprinter. I think if you've got Walcott and you've got Calvert-Lewin and you've got Richarlison, you can turn the ball over quickly because they are quick, and that could be something we can have West Ham worried with. Well,
the onus on West Ham will be to attack. Certainly after the Sheffield United game, where they're probably going to want a bit of a reaction to that. They're going to get forward. You're going to be looking for balls probably over the top, and there's nothing wrong with hitting long diagonals. Certainly against them, because you've got the pace of Richarlison and Walcott, and Calvert-Lewin could almost be a front three. In some respects. So
that's the thing. They will cause us problems, because they've got players in attacking areas that can cause you problems. Lanzini, Snodgrass normally has a decent game against us. He's got a good, Zeb Balls especially. Remember him scoring one for Hull against us a few years ago. So we'll have to be wary of that. But, it's a game you look at and think, with Everton, even putting Europe aside, and I don't see why we should. It's a very real possibility. With 4 points off European places. But even if you put that to one side and said a top 8 finish, these are the kind of games where you have to go and win. Other teams, we saw, like Crystal Palace last season, winning 8 away games and things like that, with being able to play in a counter-attack. And I think Everton in general over the last 5, 6, 7, even Moyes' era really, but, we just haven't won enough away games. It's one season, it's a game. Another season, it's 3. This team with the ability and the pace, like you've just said on the break, should be able to win half a dozen for me.
I think the one of the instant wins that we'll get with a manager like Ancelotti will be we'll be able to beat the teams who we're supposed to beat.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he's tactically astute enough to be able to close the game down. Like, for example, last week, 1-0 up, 70 minutes, he takes Bernard off. and you're thinking, what's he doing that for? But he's seeing things that we don't see.
Yeah. And trying to shut the game down, isn't he?
An Italian manager, 1-0, 20 minutes to go, he's just going to close it down. I'd love to have seen Moise Keane come on, but if you're 2 or 3 up, then he'd probably come on. But whereas Marco Silva probably would have made an attacking change, and he wouldn't have closed the game out, and we draw that game then because Glenn Murray comes on, and all of a sudden, there's long balls, there's balls going in over the top, they were going to the back post, probably the last 10, 15 minutes. Then we probably would have drawn that game. So having somebody who's able to look at it from the sideline and go, right, I need to do that, and draws into wins and losses into draws, that's what he'll do. And some of the games that, look at Bournemouth away this year, we get to 1-1 and we throw the game away in the second half. It's terrible.
Yeah, there's been too many of them, hasn't there? Burnley was a poor result, but Brighton away. We had that game 2-1 up with 10 minutes left. That should have been a victory, and we threw that away. There's been too many of them, and we have to ensure really that Saturday isn't one of those days. I mean, the big one for me that we'll have to look after is Halle. You've already mentioned him. Yerry Mina was superb against the McGudders, and he bullied him. He bullied him. He wasn't interested. Halle, after half an hour, he was getting further and further back up the pitch. Same with Philippe Anderson at Goodison. He just bullied him out the game. He didn't do anything. He took him off.
He is a mood player.
He is a mood player. If it's not going the way he wants it to, he can fall away from the game. So Everton do have to win the battles, and that'll be key. And if we can keep Halle quiet, and look after Anderson, then I think we can go on and win the game. It'll be a tough game by all. Every Premier League game's a tough game, but I think for Carlo, currently got a 75% win ratio in the Premier League, which is lovely. So it'll be nice for him to increase that to 80% this week with a win. But let's get out there, get the 3 points, and see how far up the table we can go. And that's it's about closing the gap on everyone above us. And a win at the weekend would mean that it'd be 9 points then between Everton and West Ham, who third, fourth from bottom. So it's about creating that gap away from everyone.
The sides below us as well have got to play. I think they've got to play each other, and they also play, I think, the top 6 as well. So if we can get a result against West Ham, against Newcastle, then we're playing one game a week now, whereas Wolves, Arsenal, Chelsea, they're all playing.
They're all in Europe.
United,
as well,
they've all got
other
Thursday
competitions.
Tuesday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday. So
that's it. I mean, for this squad in particular, and for Carlo Ancelotti, because he's just come into the job, and to bore everyone again, I've just finished this book, and he does make a note in that book of he doesn't like taking teams over mid-season for that reason. But once you get to one game a week, it's going to give him all of that time to assess this squad now, to close the season out, hopefully finish on a high, and start making their preparations for next season. And because, listen, we can still achieve something this season.
It's almost like a long pre-season.
Exactly.
You're right, he's going to weed out who he wants to keep, who he wants to go. He can assess them all and work out then what he wants to do going forward. But from an acclimatisation point of view, then he hasn't got 6 to 8 weeks to work with the players. No. He's had almost 6 to 8 months, and we go into next season. Then, if we can get into Europe this year, this season, it'll be
amazing.
Fantastic.
I know. A couple of people, certainly on Payton, of Keith on Payton is a bit worried about us getting into Europe, saying no, we're not ready. I don't think we can pick and choose things like that. I think the quicker this club gets into European football, with sponsors and everything else. Yes, I get the point. I get the point about the squad. But if you're clever, Wolves are above us, and they're in the Europa League, and won less games, but they've used it well. And I think what you do, and Klopp did it at Liverpool, is you use your other players. This is the problem. When we got in it last time and Koeman was in charge, ironically, Roberto Martinez did it brilliantly. Negotiated he didn't know how to defend in the league, but he negotiated the Europa League quite well till he went to Kiev and then played Alcatraz. And we needed an escape from Alcatraz because he was woeful. But what Koeman done wrong was he didn't trust the reserve, so he played the wrong players all the time instead of. And I think someone like Ancelotti with their experience, the likes of Europe would be ideal for Anthony Gordon's.
Okay. Anthony Gordon, Moise Keane.
You know, Moise Keane, people like that, you know, one of your centre-backs.
Gibson.
Likes of Gibson, maybe. Even if they're just on the bench for the experience, you use your squad like that. Maybe play your strong team at home and get the 3 home wins. And then go away and use your other players and try and get a couple of... You know, if you win 3 home games and draw 1 away game, you're through in the Europa League. 10 points gets you through. And that's what Everton could do and develop into. If they don't get into Europe, fine, but we've got to make a good run, certainly at the top 8, and keep that thing clearly in Ancelotti's mind about where we want to go for next season. Leicester did this last year with Rodgers. He came in January. He had, like you've just said, he used that end of the season, got them doing what he wanted. Don't forget, he come in and they were above Everton, and they finished below Everton. So even though he did well, he wasn't amazing. So he used it to see, like, how can I tinker this team, get them my messages across, and then they hit the ground running. They had that, like you've just said, a 6-month pre-season, so that when the August started, they hit the ground running, and they've gone from strength to strength. And it'd be an absolute, it'd have to take a disaster now for them to not finish in the Champions League places, because they're 10 points ahead or whatever of people around them. So you'd expect they would finish in the top 4 now this season, and that's because he's had the benefit of that 6 months.
I think if we can get into Europe, I think 2 of the biggest attractions at Everton next season in terms of recruitment will be Ancelotti. For one, players will want to play for him. And you know, we'll pay good money. We'll pay a good salary.
Oh, of course we will.
But if you've got European football on the back of that, then you're going to attract, probably you could be looking at players from like Leverkusen, from Frankfurt, from Ajax.
The right kind of players,
you know, from Italy, Napoli and Lazio, places like that. So it's going to open possibilities to sign better players. Which raises
that's
you
what
again.
Liverpool did, and teams like that have done, haven't they? They've gone a bit better than what you've got, better than what you can go for, and European football does do that. And you're right, having Ancelotti and having the ability to say, well, we're in Europe, in a player's mind, you look and go, well, that's a team that finishes near the top. That's where I want to go. They've got to, you know, move into a new stadium, so you're showing a prospective player, look, this is the stadium we want to move to. We've got Carlo Ancelotti as our manager.
And we're in Europe.
We're in European football. We've got a young squad, and it makes you all of a sudden very, very attractive proposition. Because a lot of most players want to go and play for Champions League clubs, of course they do, because the image rights and everything else, it goes in the back pocket and gives them a good wedge, and they can judge themselves against the best players and whatever. But the next best thing is the Europa League, and it's European football. It gives them not as good benefits, but still benefits. And the other thing as well, finally, on the European football thing, is that the involvement in the Europa League, now if you can get into the group stages and stuff, I think it's 12 million now. Money. Whereas when Everton got to the last 16 or last 32, whatever it was under Martinez, last 16, it was something like 900,000. So it's a big difference, especially to a club like Everton, especially with FFP and everything else. It is important, and I know people can have that fear that, oh, the season can be derailed. We're not in it this season, and the season was almost derailed. So I don't think you can pick and choose. I think you should always strive to finish at the top of the league. If that ends up being 7th and you get into Europe, you take your medicine.
You look at the price. The prize money disparity between finishing 7th or 8th, 14th or 15th. Then it's 12 million, which is huge.
It's
but
ridiculous.
I mean, just going back to West Ham, when you look at them as a club, they've got aspirations like we have, but they've never kicked on. And if we can go there, get an early goal Saturday, their crowd are horrific. They'll be on their backs straight away.
I don't think that they're delighted with the David Moyes appointment, are they?
No, I don't think so.
I think some of them see it as a necessity and go, well, all right, at least he'll keep us up. But I think the other ones who do want better from their club are looking. I've seen loads, when we were linked with them, loads of West Ham fans going, you don't want him, you don't want him. And it's like, well, we know David Moyes, we had him for a long time. You had him for 6 months and he kept you up. So there will be that little bit. And the first goal is key in a lot. I think it's 71% of the teams who win the game are the team that scores the first goal. So it's a high thing to get the first goal, and that's what Everton will look to do at the weekend. Just finally, before we finish, Anthony Gordon, he's been in and around the squad. There's more talk of him this week. Obviously, Marcel Brands at the AGM pointed out he's a player who's very, very close. Is he someone you think you'd like to see on the bench at the weekend, or do you think it's still a little bit too soon for him?
No, I think he'd be great to come off the bench. I think with Bernard, he sort of gets to the 65, 70 minutes and he's tiring. But to have somebody who's got ability like Gordon to be able to come in, he's quick, he's direct, he can come inside, then you're having somebody who's going to cause the same type of problems, but who's going to be a lot fresher, and he's going to be able to stretch the game. And we've got to see him at some point. You know, he's got to play. I think he can make an impact for us. I think when we get to 40 points this season, get that boxed off, and we can see where we are in terms of the league. Whoever wins the League Cup, they're going to be in Europe. When we get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals of the FA Cup, then we'll know who's going to win that and how that affects the league places. And you know, perhaps we can start to give him full 90 minutes or get him to start games then towards the back end of the season. Lewis Gibson as well. I think, you know, he's back from injury now. I think he's going to need to get into the team at some point just to see what he's like, really. He's got 6 months left on his contract. You know, they're going to need to make a decision.
I think with Lewis Gibson's really interesting actually, because the club are trying to get him to sign a new deal. He wants reassurances about his pathway to the team, which is fine. And a sure way of getting him to sign a contract is to include him.
Give him a game.
Isn't it? And say, well, you know, we're looking at you to be one of our centre-backs or cover at left-back, because he's I know he's probably not going to be a left-back, but you can start off as a full-back and move back inside. So there's a couple of opportunities. I don't think Leighton Baines will stay beyond the season. So there's a couple of opportunities for him to be in the Everton squad as either a centre-back or a left-back. And the best way to sweeten a player up is to give him a couple of appearances at the end of the season. Say, see, you're in my thinking.
Unless they give Garbutt another contract.
He's getting a bloody testimonial before he gets another contract. It looks like he's going to Ipswich. But there you go. Big thanks to Matthew. Let's hope we can scrape a win. That's all. No, actually, let's do what we did last year. Go there
and attack.
Have an attack from the first minute, put the game to bed and get 3 big points. And then we move on. You know, beat Newcastle and we go into that FA Cup break, shall we call it, in a great position. But you know, fingers crossed. It'll be a tough game, but fingers crossed Everton can continue the good run of form of late. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, or join us on Patreon like Matthew has, and if you want more videos. So, see you later.